Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the McDermott Report. I'm Dan McDermott, broadcasting live from Lynchburg, Virginia. We're here every night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We've got a great show coming up tonight. My co-host is Meghan Moesline. Meghan is editor of Frederick County Report, a newspaper in northwestern Virginia based in Stevens City. Our stories tonight, an interesting new website called Driver Ratings. It's driver-ratings.com. It lets you vent your wrath against a bad driver or praise the good ones. I don't think anybody will be praising my driving, but we'll talk to the founder of the website in just a moment. Dominique Strauss-Kahn. Is he an innocent man? Has he been framed for rape? Is he the new Duke lacrosse player? Is his political career over? We'll analyze that. Also, California, a supervisor wants to secede. He wants to take the southern part of California and make a brand new state called Southern California. We'll also analyze the debate from last night, the internet sales tax debate that's resulted in Amazon.com and Overstock.com stopping their business with their affiliates in the state. We're talking thousands and thousands of small businesses. Also, President Obama planning his town hall on Twitter coming up. We'd like to know what you think. The number to call is 818-688-6625. First of all, let me bring Meghan in here. Meghan, we appreciate you being on the show tonight. How's everything going?
Anytime. Good, real
awesome.
Good, actually.
All right. Okay. Well, our first guest is back with us now. This is Nick. Nick, how you doing?
Doing great. Sorry about that. My landline just went out of battery, so I'm calling back from a different phone.
Okay, no problem. All right, no problem at all. Okay, well, let's take a look at your site. It is called driverratings.com, and here it is. Just tell us what the site is, what you can do with it.
Sure. So it's a website where you can go and enter someone's license plate in the state, and you can see what people have rated that driver, or you can go on and submit your own rating. So the idea came to me about 2 months ago while I was driving home, and I came across two different types of drivers. The first driver came close to causing a huge accident and major pileup, and they just drove off had no idea what happened. The second type of driver that I came across came within the similar situation, but they avoided the accident just because they were conscientious and paying attention. And I realized that there's no way to communicate with drivers on the road besides hand gestures or honking. And so I created this website that lets you confront a driver without physical violence. Or you can just go on there and tell someone, thanks for being courteous and made a positive impact on my day.
Okay, now let's be real here. How many ratings do you get for good drivers, and how many ratings do you get for bad drivers?
Surprisingly, there's more positive ratings. So out of the total, I think I've got about 70,000 ratings, and about 50 of those are positive.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think? What kind? Are you getting some good traffic here? Are you getting some good attention on this?
Yeah, it's getting a lot of, and I haven't been doing that much promoting, so it's just all of word of mouth. And there's a lot of drivers out there and a lot of bad drivers, so people find the site useful, and it's just therapeutic, and word of mouth is just spreading like crazy, so it's just kind of taking off.
Okay. What do you have any other internet projects or anything like that you're into?
I'm sorry, any other projects?
Are you in any other, is this your first website you've started?
No, I've been a web developer for about 10 years, and I have a full-time job with another .com. So this is just kind of a side project that I was working on. It was just personally for me. When I came across those two drivers, I just wanted something personally that I could try to communicate with them and, kind of leave my story. And other people, just kind of picked it up and found it useful as well.
Okay, Meghan, why don't you got anything you want to ask Nick?
No, I've just been looking through the site. Do you think that this will have an effect on drivers and people start actually going to the site? Do you think this could persuade them to become better drivers?
Hopefully. If I saw something on there that, said that I was a bad driver, then mean, I take it hard. It really depends on the driver, but yeah, I haven't heard any stories yet where people have gone on there and found out like, whoa, I had no idea that I cut you off or something like that. That hasn't happened yet just because the site is so new, but I hope that happens, and I hope it makes a positive impact on the roads.
What if someone gets really angry with you? Do you have like a hidden address or something that they can't come after you if you go public with their driving infractions?
If someone has an issue that they think that a comment is incorrect, then they can just send me an email and I'll take it down. Okay. So I haven't had anybody really upset about what's posted yet.
So you don't have a legal team or anything like that yet?
Well, I have a lot. I mean, when I first got this idea, it was kind of my first question I went to. I'm fortunate to have some pretty good lawyers for friends, so I asked them about it. And this is a site about subjective opinions, and nothing's factual. It's not like the police are going to arrest someone because of something that's written on the site. That would be like the judge busting Lindsay Lohan for something she read on TMZ the day earlier.
Right, I hear you. Okay, all right. Well, Meghan, I guess you'll have to watch your driving because someone's liable to rat you out on Nick's new site. Okay.
Yeah, drive safe out there, and there's some pretty funny comments on there. So check it out if you have a chance.
Okay, awesome. I think it's neat. It's a neat idea, and I hope I don't appear on your site. I guess you get a lot of traffic people just checking to see if they're on there.
Yeah. Well, hey, you could be on it for positive reasons too.
Can you do you check to see if someone gets a really negative review that they can? Do you check to see that they can't log in repeatedly and praise their own driving to counteract the negative?
So there's nothing to prevent you from rating your own plate because it's somewhat anonymous, but there's steps in place to prevent someone from, you can't rate a driver 5 times yourself. You can only submit one driver rating per license plate.
Okay. Can't game the system.
No.
All right. Well, we will be checking to see if we show up ourselves. Again, that site is driver-ratings.com, driverratings.com, and you can look for you can check by state, you can look at the worst drivers and the best drivers, and hopefully, for everyone's benefit, our viewers and listeners will appear on the best driver category. Thanks so much, Nick. We appreciate you being on the show, and like I said,
thank you for having me on.
Yeah, if you want to weigh in on any of our other stuff, feel free to jump in there. Okay, awesome. So our next story here, let's go back to Meghan. Meghan, I know you've been following up on the story of Dominique Strauss-Kahn. I'm going to let you address this because, frankly, I'm a man, and I don't. It's a touchy subject. I had an ex-girlfriend once who said women never ever lie about being raped, and then we had the Duke Lacrosse case where you had the prosecutor Nifong just going after these guys. Even as the reputation and the story of the accuser dwindled, and here we have a similar situation where now it looks like the prosecutors have told the judge and the defense. It was interesting that it was in fact the prosecutors who discovered this. The defense investigators didn't. It was the prosecution, and they said that the woman had repeatedly lied to them, and now he's gone from having to pay, I think, $225,000 a month for private security in this arrangement where he for his bail, because in the beginning he was on an airplane and the prosecution was alleging that he was attempting to flee, and I think the interesting thing was, how can you possibly argue you're not a flight risk when you were literally caught fleeing on a plane? What are your thoughts here? This is we don't know yet, of course. It'll be a lot easier with hindsight, but from 10,000 feet in the air, what do you think about this whole story of Mr. Dominique Strauss-Kahn?
I think it's interesting that every picture of him, he's kind of smirking. He kind of looks snotty and this arrogance about him, and you come to America with the anticipation of certain things when you're from a foreign country, and I think he came here with the wrong anticipation, the wrong ideal of what was going to happen while he was here.
Do you think? Where does someone go? Let's say this is all just nonsense, and it was just made up by this woman. There's that old saying, "Where do I go to get my reputation back?" I mean, is on the good side, his supporters in France are already saying, that he should resume his campaign for the presidency. Can you imagine a president of a country, president of France, being the head of state there, and being someone who was falsely accused and perhaps improperly detained, imprisoned in the United States? I can't see how that would help the French-U.S. relations.
I can't see how it would help the relations either. And I mean, when our own elected officials in this country are no stranger to situations like this, whether it be consenting or not, I think it's all in how you handle it, and it's all in how you recover yourself from that. I mean, if you handle it poorly during the situation while it's playing out, that can tell you later you're probably not going to be an athleter. But if he can come through this and come out on top and really learn from the situation and demonstrate to the public that he's learned, maybe I'm a little soft, but I don't think it's a big deal if he wants to step into that role and run the country.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it will be a huge, I tweeted earlier today, if he turns out to be the next Duke Lacrosse player, that it will be a huge national embarrassment for the United States because but we don't know. I mean, was this prosecutorial overreach? I mean, they didn't have a whole lot of time to make a decision because they had this report and the guys on the plane. They had to do something right then.
Right.
They say that he left his phone behind, and they viewed that as evidence that he had fled quickly. But he called the hotel and said, "Hey, I left my phone behind." So that's evidence that he just left his phone behind. So who knows? I mean, they can. I know that I had an attorney, and I've heard this saying before, but an attorney told me that a grand jury will indict a dog if the prosecutor tells them to. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. To be announced. All right. If you'd like to weigh in on this, please give us a call. The number is 818-688-6625. We would love to have you aboard. Shar is hanging out, and she's hopefully going to get your call. Okay, coming up next on the program, let's discuss this story, a split California. Coming from, I originally saw this from CBS News on via Drudge Report. Riverside County Supervisor Jeff Stone is proposing that his county, Riverside, lead a campaign for as many as 13 Southern California counties to secede from the state of California. And those counties would include Imperial, San Diego, Orange, San Bernardino, Kings, Kern, Fresno, Tulare, Inyo, Madera, Mariposa, and Mono counties, forming the new South California state. It would allow officials to focus on securing borders, balancing budgets, improving schools, and creating a vibrant economy, according to the statement. I'm looking here at the this Los Angeles CBS local site. He said, our taxes are too high, our schools don't educate our children well enough, unions and other special interests have more clout in the legislature than the general public. What do you think, Meghan? I mean, this, it sounds kooky to me, but I know that Texas Governor Rick Perry was saying this, and apparently it was inaccurate that Texas reserved the right to secede when, in fact, they reserved the right to do this, to split into other states when the Republic of Texas joined the United States of America. What do you think about the idea that a state frustrated with the national government could, or frustrated with their state house and the financial mess, should be able to split off? I assume this is a wealthier section of California.
Well, I think it's interesting. Everyone gets a case of the blues, and everyone feels like they have the right to pout about certain things. But it's like, at the end of the day, if you have a bad day at work, you're not going to branch off and start your own company. You're going to go back and try to find an amicable solution. The fact that these lawmakers, these people who are pretty much paid to run the government, are like, no, we're done trying to work with you. We're just going to split off and do our own thing because we don't trust that you're competent enough to do it. Well, that's I don't think that's so much as an idea as it is them being 5-year-olds. Well, I'm done with this. You don't want to play my way, then I'm going to take my board game and go home, and I'll play it the way I want to play it there. You know, you can't pout and act like that and throw your hands in the air and say, I'm going home, forget it. You have to be an adult. You have to sit down with the other people that you're supposed to work with, and you have to reach a solution that's going to best solve the problem at hand.
Well, I hear you say that, but what if you're in a situation where, let's say hypothetically, a state, because this is an issue. This could apply to any state. Let's say you have a state, and there's 1/3 of the state is wealthy suburban folks. Then you have a big inner city that is lower income, and then you have a rural area that's very sparsely populated. So you might have that city dominating in the elections, and so you elect a government that takes money from the wealthy area and brings it on programs for the city that the wealthy suburb people don't care about. And this is a constant argument all across the country. I know that some of the folks, I used to live in Fairfax County, and they were constantly frustrated that more money came out of Northern Virginia to fund the rest of the state, which earned less and produced less. And of course, Northern Virginia is right next to D.C., which is a lot of the reason that Northern Virginia is so prosperous. You could see this if you're living and your state tax dollars are going to support another part of the state. It might seem logical that you should form your own wealthy state.
Well, you know, I think they tried that back in the 1800s in England and under the King's rule when everyone was separated by class, and I don't think it went too well.
Well, it was, I thought you were going to say they tried that here in the 1800s, but that was whole states seceding, which is a different issue. I know that Virginia, I mean, it's sort of like borders. They talk about a lot of the borders up in Europe, you know, a lot of these borders in the Middle East were drawn by the British and other colonial powers. That's why you see countries like, that's why you see countries like France participating in the Libya situation, in Germany, because they were involved in the, you know, that area, the North Africa, before it became what it is today. And there's an interesting Wikipedia article called "The Lost Colonies or the Lost Counties of Virginia," and Virginia, of course, was a much larger state in history. Part of it was what is now Kentucky. Part of course, West Virginia entirely was split off during the Civil War when we seceded, and not we, but Virginia seceded, but the West Virginia counties were allied with the North, and so they stayed with the Union, and they became West Virginia, the current state. So, you know, whether they're set in stone per se, or whether it should be something that should be fluid, but I can see a big can of worms if you allow a wealthy suburban area to split off and form its wealthy state and remove that revenue source from the rest of the state. But then you could argue that the status quo is a de facto form of socialism. But then to take that to its logical conclusion, you could say so are roads, because even people who don't drive have to pay taxes to, you know, maintain the roads. But anyway, all right. Now, we had this other debate last night with two folks on the California internet sales tax. This was really interesting. California has enacted an internet sales tax, and the crux of it is this. If you are a company that does business, you have a nexus in a website like Amazon.com. If you have a nexus, they call it, either a building or employees, according to one of the folks we had on last night, even if you advertise in a state television station or magazine or newspaper, then that would put you in this category, and you would have to collect sales tax from folks in California. Now, the courts have ruled that if you are, say, a Virginia business or North Dakota winery or what have you, if you're selling, but you don't have any store, you don't have any employees, you don't have any presence in another state, that state cannot require you to collect sales tax on its residents. Most states require residents to inform the state if they purchase something without paying sales tax. There's another tax for that. But most folks aren't doing that. If you buy a book from Amazon, you're supposed to report to the state that you bought a $15 book and pay your sales tax. But realistically, I don't think that happens a lot. So this whole thing here is the status now is Amazon.com has ended its relationship with folks. They're called affiliates, where if you have a website and you have an ad there, or let's say you do a book review and you mention a book and you have a little link. If you'd like to buy the book, click here, and then it takes them to Amazon. Amazon recognizes that that link came from your website and then pays you a commission. And there are thousands and thousands of folks, and they've all just lost their gig with Amazon, and Overstock.com is doing the same thing. So the bill's supposed to generate $330 million in sales taxes, but the folks who are against it say that these affiliates were paying $150 million a year in sales tax, and that if they leave the state, or in the current situation where they just simply aren't allowed to participate, then it's just the state. It's a loser for the state, and it's going to cost more for the consumer. So, what do you think, Meghan? What are your thoughts on the whole notion that everyone who buys anything from the internet should have to pay sales tax?
Well, I think this day was coming. I'm surprised it took this long. The government will find a way to tax just about anything that they can in order to try to gain revenue, especially at this point. I don't think it's going to work out how their projections are saying it's going to work out. I think that people are going to find ways to circumvent the regulations like they always do. Right now they're kind of assuming that people will take it and pay for it and ask questions later, but I think a lot of people are just going to start asking questions and finding ways to cut ties or, sever that revenue stream to avoid paying it.
Okay. What about the whole notion that the way it is now, and I used this analogy last night on the show, that I went to Barnes & Noble, and you look, it's a beautiful store, it's got a nice coffee shop, and you discover all these wonderful books there, and I'm not going to buy them because I'm not going to pay a retail list, and this doesn't address that issue, that it's more expensive to build a brick-and-mortar store than to have a website. But these Barnes & Noble, Borders books, that they're basically like a showroom for Amazon.com, because you're going to go look at the book, discover, okay, it's neat. You might sit there and read it for an hour and a half, then put it back on the shelf, then go home. You might even get on your laptop in the coffee shop and order the book from Amazon with their free Wi-Fi provided by Barnes & Noble, which I might add is under severe financial duress. Is that fair to these brick-and-mortar stores?
Well, of course it's not fair to the brick-and-mortar stores. But, people aren't thinking about what's fair to the businesses. What they're focused on is what's fair to them. Do I want to pay the extra cost for something because I bought it in a store, or do I want to buy it online where I don't have to pay that sales tax? Well, they're going to buy it online. And it's all economy driven right now. It's how much money people are getting paid. It's how much money people have to put toward disposable income. It's how much money people have to, put in that outlet and buy the things that they want to buy. They're going to find the cheapest way to do it possible so they don't feel guilty about it later.
Right. It's more expensive for the consumer to pay the sales tax. I mean, this gets back to the whole argument, I don't know, brick and mortar. It's like Paul Bunyan, the chainsaw came along and it was more efficient, and the axe, went the way of Paul Bunyan. So it's sad, because it's sad for these affiliates who are going to lose their gig. It was kind of like a too good to be true thing. So I think this is probably, California is often a trend for the country, and I think in the end that they're going to level the playing field and just make everybody pay the same thing. It's not fair if I'm a Virginia website that I have to charge sales tax to a Virginian, but not to someone from South Dakota. And I guess the federal government will eventually weigh in on this, or perhaps not, because there's a big argument we're in a recession and we shouldn't raise any taxes. So this pits the mom and pop stores and the big retail chains versus the big internet websites. And one of our guests said that 96% of all sales are in brick and mortar stores, but that probably counts every kind of retail thing, like a 7-Eleven hot dog or a 6-pack of soda you might get there, which obviously you're not going to order online, with the exception of Rush Limbaugh's tea. But anyway, we'll see. This debate's going to remain hot. So okay, let's go to our next topic here. Twitter, the Twitter town hall from President Barack Obama. Meghan, are you a Twitterer, a Twitter user? I
do. I dabble. I'm a dabbler. I will say that. I do have a Twitter account. I'm not the most frequent tweeter, but I do what I can, I guess.
How do you find it useful for yourself?
I find it useful when I worked in the Warren County area. I found that if there was a power outage or, it was an extremely hot day, that, being able to tweet to the people who followed me and stayed up to date on my work, it was good for them, because if they had that question of, oh my God, my power went out, who do I call? I could give them the number. Or, I heard it's supposed to be 95 degrees out today, but I'm not real sure. I can let them know if I've heard anything from any meteorologists in the area. I think that bridging the gap and being able to help people immediately and answer questions on site is fantastic. As far as something like a town hall meeting over Twitter, I got to give props to Obama for really trying every social media outlet out there, trying to reach the kids in schools via Ustream and YouTube and videos and this, that, and the other. And, now moving on to Twitter as in like the next generation of social media, it's interesting to me that he's trying to branch out like that.
I hear you. I use it. I think it's a good idea. I mean, it reminds me of the remember the YouTube town hall. I think they had a sock puppet or something. I forget what, a plant or something crazy. Asking the presidential candidates questions. The YouTube debate. This is just another function. It's just a means of communication, and it's not really a Twitter thing. I mean, it's not like he's going to be responding to intricate questions about the economy in 140 characters or less. I wonder if he'll get a special account where he can go after that, go above that, sort of a White House account. But folks can send the hashtag Ask Obama, and it will be sent there. And actually, the co-founder of Twitter is going to be moderating it. And so I'm guessing most of the questions will be known ahead of time, and it'll be just your basic televised town hall. And it's a great way for him to get a bunch of attention and TV time for free because it's new and interesting. So maybe this will be I don't think it's demeaning. I think it's a little silly, but I think it's a good way to reach folks who... Go ahead.
That's exactly it. It's reaching people who may not have voted in the last election, who may not be thinking about voting in the next election, but could be potential voters. It's that potential age group that isn't really into politics yet. They're trying to get their feet underneath them. They may not follow the news on a regular basis, but something on Twitter they may pick up and look at because it's quick, it's something that they understand, and it's in a venue that they're familiar with.
I hear you. I think will you be tuning in? Will you be sending anything to the Ask Obama hashtag?
I don't know. I really have to sit down and choose my words wisely. That 140 character thing really gets me as a writer.
I see this. I see some breaking news. I see a judge has blocked the Kansas abortion law. I think that's the law where the folks were. It was interesting to debate. They've got a bunch of new requirements on that. Your room has to be this size or whatever. It's basically the folks who don't like abortion putting a bunch of draconian requirements because they can't straight up ban it. So they just say, you have to have a bunch of these requirements to have an abortion clinic, and they're apparently not easily met. And then a judge has just temporarily blocked it, apparently. Judge Carlos Murguia issued an order against the new licensing law, and his order remains in effect until a trial in the lawsuit, which has been filed by a couple of doctors who perform abortions. What are your thoughts on the whole notion? If you can't get it one way, if you can't ban it, then just license them out of business or unlicense them out of business.
Well, I think it's risky because people are going to do what they want to do, and we could be pushing ourselves into a situation like in the 50s and 60s when women wanted abortions. They had to do these back alley procedures where, the old adage, coat hangers were used and whatever else, and it was violent, and it was dangerous for the people involved, and it was dangerous for, the doctors. It was dangerous for the women, and it led to a lot of infections. It led to a lot of death, and I think that even with today's medical advances, you're going to find people who are willing to pay any price. And if someone says, oh, I'm a doctor, I can do it, and you can just come to my facilities, you're going to see a lot of people, a lot of unidentifiable bodies being left in dark rooms, or, worse, you're going to find people with the ability to partially do it and not all the way do it, and people getting sick, and healthcare costs rising because of emergency room visits. And I think it's a tangled web. I really do. Regardless of how you feel about the topic, the fact of the matter is people are going to do what they want to do, regardless of what the law tells them.
Yeah. And we'll see what this lawsuit is. It's going to be an interesting legal battle. We'll see what happens here. Okay, I got to tell you, I know you're jealous. Last night we had McGruff the Crime Dog on the show. Great guy, sergeant with an Iowa Sheriff's Department. He's retired now, but he still does this. I think he's done thousands and thousands of appearances. It all started when he saw the cartoon for it, and there wasn't a live version. And so he thought, well, gee, we should have one. And so he went to JCPenney and bought a trench coat, had somebody make a papier-mâché hat, and the live version of McGruff the Crime Dog was born. And, of course, I made him say, take a bite out of crime or whatever. If you check out our past episodes, it was episode 10 from June 30th. You can check that out. It's really cool. One thing I want to ask you, Meghan, did you hear about Mark Halpern's description of the president, a 4-letter description? He was on Morning Joe, and he said that he thought the president was a blank in his speech. I didn't mention this to you ahead of time. I don't know if you followed that, but he's been suspended from MSNBC. I don't know. Is this? We see this every once in a while. We see someone who uses a bad word against the president. I remember David Brinkley, when Bill Clinton was speaking, I think, he said it's just GD nonsense or something like that. And then I think he retired shortly thereafter. I guess this will just go on, every once in a while someone slips up.
Well, I think a lot of times when people are in the public eye, they tend to forget the weight that comes with that responsibility. And, you get a little comfortable in your skin and in your settings, and you kind of think you have free reign, forgetting the fact that you're a watchdog. And it's kind of your job to police situations and to educate the public on what's happening. And you can often remove yourself from that situation, and your mouth can get ahead of you. Everyone gets that God complex, so to speak, where they think they have the right and they have the means, and it's not going to come back and bite them. And 9 times out of 10, it does.
Yeah, you should be aware when you're on TV. You shouldn't get too comfortable, nor should you get too comfortable when you're sending a photograph direct message on Twitter, which hopefully hopefully the president won't be doing in his town hall. Hey, that was interesting. There in the press conference, they were debating this about, is this a campaign event or is this an official event? And if it's a campaign event, is it appropriate to use his official Twitter account? But I don't think he's really using it, because he's going to be on television and they're not actually tweeting him. They're tweeting from their own account with the hashtag. If you don't use Twitter, I've totally lost you. But they're using the hashtag Ask Obama. So I guess he's not even using his official Twitter account. So he's clean on that. But isn't that kind of ridiculous to? It's a free service.
Well,
should there be a distinction, like you can't
so
use?
Much hot water right now between the Twitter and the use of that name and the whole campaign video that he sent out as a fundraising effort to win a dinner with him and Joe Biden. Now they're saying the video is illegal. It wasn't shot in the common area. It was shot in the map room, and the map room's used for official business. It's like Obama can't catch a break. He looks one way, he's getting in trouble for Twitter. He looks the other way, he's getting in trouble for a video. So it's like, in many ways, the social media is a blessing for him, but in many other ways, it's also been a curse, because he's been held accountable for just about everything he's done or thought about doing on any of those outlets. Yeah,
I think on that sort of thing, if they do something legitimate, they should be called out on it. But I think that's silly. Who cares? That's the folks who, if Obama, if the president walked on water today, then tomorrow they'd say Obama can't swim. The economy's not great. Not everything's. I don't think he's handled everything well. But on something like this, I think it's silly and it's nonsensical to poke fun, to care. I guess the White House press corps, they look for stuff like that to have something to report on, or some big breaking news story about the official maybe they'll get a link on Drudge and get 50,000 hits or something and shut their server down as a result. So good for them. How's everything going in
Frederick? Could be peacocking.
Peacocking? Be
it's
careful.
A distraction. It's a pretty shiny bird over in the corner. Don't look over here where you're supposed to be looking. Peacocking. It's like a distraction technique.
And something you need to say very carefully.
Yeah.
All right, so your newspaper, I see your picture up here. I publish it, disclaimer. Frederick County Report. What are you working on for next week? Any exciting stuff you can share, or is it all top secret still?
Well, we have a couple top secret long-term things in the works. But, there's the typical stuff that always happens. Winchester City Council's been hit hard with their water and sewer rate rises. A lot of people are speaking out against it, but it's something that the city, much like a lot of the municipalities south of the city, are feeling. State regulations, EPA regulations, DEQ regulations coming in and saying expand your treatment plants, upgrade the facilities, and give us millions of dollars in the process. And, how do you pay for that? Well, you hit up your taxpayers. And a lot of people are asking the question, why? Why are my sewer rates so high? Why are my water rates so high? Why do they keep raising every 2 to 3 months? Well, this is another situation where it's like, just like you're hurting, the city's hurting, and it's something that should have been done years ago, but officials wanted to put off.
Anything they can put off, they will, because, it's just that their goal is to get elected. That's the whole thing. That's since the beginning of time. Any other burning issues you want to hit on?
Not that 4th of July, fireworks safety. Let's keep this in mind. Virginia being a place where, you can pretty much buy fireworks and set them off. Don't let your kids do it. Don't leave lighters out.
What are you talking about?
Don't walk up to something.
Virginia's strict. Virginia's strict about that. Yeah, you got to go to South Carolina to get anything good. What are you talking about?
Oh, well, even the stuff that you can buy at the grocery store, it can still be dangerous. That's my biggest thing on the 4th of July is everyone, I just bought this at the grocery store. It's not a big deal. Let the kids set it off. Never let the kids set it off. Let them keep their fingers and toes.
What do you mean?
We won't
They
go
can't
into how
use
you can set up a
sparklers or
firework with your
anything?
toes.
They can't play with sparklers? Or?
Well, sparklers are something different. You can't blow your hand off with a sparkler, and I say that reserved because I've never seen it done. I bet you could if you tried hard enough.
Well, for the good of the, maybe we shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, not to make light, of anyone getting injured and that sort of thing, but I hear you. All right. Well, I thank Meghan. Also, I thank Nick from Driver Ratings. It's driver-ratings.com. Driver-ratings.com. Nick was great on the show. Great, interesting website. I hope, Meghan, are you a good driver?
I'm a very good driver, and I can say that on good authority. I've been told by several uniformed officers that I'm a good driver, with the exception of the one that pulled me over recently. But he was nice, too.
Wasn't I on the phone with you when you got the ticket?
Yes, you were.
Man. Bummer.
That's what I get for driving a turbocharged vehicle. Your foot gets a little heavy sometimes. Well, at least mine does. It's the first time in like 8 years. I can take responsibility.
How many miles over was it?
Too many.
It was about $160 or something, probably, right? That's usually. Yeah, well. Roundabout. All right. Well, we'll have to give her a raise at some point so she can pay all these tickets. All right. Well, we appreciate Meghan and we appreciate Nick from driver-ratings.com being on the show. We'll be back iffy the weekends, but definitely on Monday at 8 p.m. You can always catch the show at McDermottReport.com. McDermottReport.com. It's on Blog Talk Radio and Ustream, and at McDermottReport.com we have either the players embedded and links to those things, and we also have the previous episodes on YouTube. And if you just Google McDermott Report, that should get you to it. Thanks so much. We appreciate it. And again, Meghan, thank you at FredcoReport.com.
Anytime. Glad to be here.
All right. Awesome. All right. Well, that's it. And I will see you, if not this weekend, I'll see you Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Have a great weekend.